How's it going, everyone? VenomousStare here, back with another StarCraft 2 video. This time we're going to be doing a guide targeted towards new players. This is how to do Proxy Oracle versus Terran. Now, I like to nickname the Oracle the Gooby, named after a comic that Moro posted. I'll have the link to that in the description. It's very funny. But let's talk about Proxy Gooby. What are you trying to accomplish with this build, and what does it mean? So there's going to be a lot of new player tips. So if you're Diamond, don't tell me that you already knew this because it's not targeted towards you. So a proxy is a building that you build somewhere on the map that's not your main base. Almost always it is used and built in this manner to deceive and hide information from your opponent. Another thing worth noting is I take a very fast second gas, which my opponent scouts. Now my opponent named I love SNSD, which I kind of read as search and destroy, but who knows what it really means. He's going to do an eBay block, which means he's going to build an engineering bay at my natural expansion, and that's going to prevent me from expanding because he sees this double gas. He can assume that I want to tech up very fast and that I do not want to make attacking units. If you look at my money, I rarely have a lot of minerals as my gas is building up, which is what I want. Hey, knock it off, you're fine. So I've also built my second pylon out here very close to my opponent's main base. Now my opponent is doing something very curious, which is building a second eBay, and I have no idea why he's doing this. He's already building his turret. He should have just made turrets out of this eBay. This was probably a mistake letting this finish, and he's worried that I'm just going to kill it, so he's building another so he has the ability to make turrets. You never want to be facing Proxy Oracle and not be able to make turrets. So as soon as my Cyber Core finished, I started my Stargate, and I started my Mothership Core. Now, as soon as this finished, I started the Mothership Core. I know I just said that, but I repeated it because I had a probe on the way, and I canceled it to get the Mothership Core out. This is important because if your Terran opponent elects to go Reaper, you do not want to take any damage at all. If your opponent goes Reaper, you want to be able to have a Mothership Core out because this build is very timed out, it's very cutthroat. You don't want to lose a few extra probes because you didn't get that Mothership Core out. Here I see that my opponent has eBay blocked me, so I've elected to take my expansion at my third. Now, my opponent isn't really able to deduce that I've done this. He doesn't have the proper scouting information. He has to use all of his mules as opposed to scans because he desperately needs minerals, because he needs lots of marines. You can see he's made multiple turrets. He knows that oracles or Dark Templar are on the way. This is the power of Protoss cheese, is your Terran can't really deduce what it is. And the stem is about to complete. This is another thing. Terran can know that you're going Oracle and they can make multiple turrets, but they're never going to be able to defend all of their base with one turret. So I love SNSD is able to save his stem pack because my Gooby runs out of energy. But he's had to dedicate so much to stopping this because he can't actually figure out for sure whether it's Oracle or DT, that he's been forced to make extra turrets and delay his expansion. Notice he was also able to complete 2 upgrades, but they had to be stem and combat or stem and concussive shell. Had it been combat shield, he would have not been able to complete it. I would have been able to kill it because combat shield takes significantly longer. If you didn't know, concussive shield upgrades almost instantly. So he went double tech lab for double early upgrades. This obviously worked against him because now he's unable to produce a sufficient amount of marines. Not to mention the fact that the turrets he made has prevented him from getting the actual mineral income he needs, but the turrets he's made have kept him alive. Now if we look back in my camp, I've taken I've taken a natural at my third base, and I have 4 gateways and a forge started. Now, when your opponent locks in like this, when they really dig in and say, I'm not going to die to Oracle, I'm going to make a ton of turrets. And by the way, my opponent's not a complete joke. The reason he's making all these turrets is because he thinks I'm committing to a one base all in. If we go to his vision, oh, he's still on one base. Not so. I've taken my natural at my third. He wasn't expecting this. He's also forced to cancel combat shields because he can't defend it. So right now the Terran thinks all I have to do is hold off these goobies, hold off the oracles, and I win. He kind of has a natural foothold established, so if he is finally able to take his natural, he'll be able to defend it somewhat. So I see that he's committed to making lots of turrets as his expansion starts. By the way, he also thinks that he can make Vikings and be able to hold off if I make pure Oracle. So what do? Go into Phoenix. Phoenix are actually a good macro unit. They help prevent drops, and they're decent at attacking. But more importantly, my oracles are relatively worthless because my opponent has invested so much in these turrets. The reason he's been forced to invest so much in these turrets is because I constantly killed his building SCV on his factory, so he was never able to get up mines, and I harassed the add-ons of his barracks. Basically, my opponent's been behind all game, despite the fact that he scouted the despite the fact that he scouted the early double gas and tried to prepare for it. I've taken a third at this point, and I can deduce he doesn't have a base, a natural. So at this point I can pretty much A-move into his base like an idiot and win. And I pretty much do that. I A-move my army piecemeal like a complete retard, and I'm still able to win because of my absurd economy advantage and the fact that I've been outplaying my opponent for the last 5 minutes. Double stasis ward going down onto this cliff. The thought process being that it will interfere with his ability to transfer units and fight out here. Obviously he has a turret so he can see both the wards. I make a huge mistake here. I don't wait for my warp-in stalkers. I kind of get cocky and say I have too much and just go. So the Terran is building resources all game. He also has turrets to help him defensively against my Phoenix. He stems forward a bit here thinking he's won, but I just bring the goobies forward after baiting him out of the turret range. And at this point he's dead. So we saw our Terran opponent scout my double gas and block my natural, theoretically thwarting both of my plans for fast Oracle into macro, but I showed that you can make Phoenix after making Oracle, and this is awful by the way, my macro. I knew the game was over, but my macro should have been better. But I show that even once you commit to Proxy Oracle, you can macro out of it even when your opponent makes 5 turrets. If you enjoyed it, if this was instructional in any way, the fast double gas, the Proxy Oracle, make sure to leave me a subscription and a comment. And maybe tell me if you struggle with something on ladder, I can make a vid over that. Subscribe.